Welcome to episode 1 of the Indie Side, where we interview writers, illustrators, and editors working on the independent side of things. This is the co-creator, Ellie Jay. It was our idea. We were sitting around thinking about what we can do with our free time. And Ellie Jay, between the two of us, I feel like you have far less free time. Now, I've known you for about a year now, over a year now, and I know that you're active not just independently publishing online, but you get out in your community. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, a lot of the things that I've been doing to spread the word about my books, because I've got a few out now, have been local craft fairs, library talks. I did a talk for a book club once, which was a really fun experience. Just trying to distribute physical copies of my books as well as the online stuff and just spread the word so that people can see what I'm doing, who I am, and that I'm out here constantly writing, constantly trying to be seen.
You even did a radio spot, didn't you? A couple of months ago, maybe 6 months ago, I saw a video where you had done a radio spot.
Yes, I did a local radio station called LCRFM, which is Lincoln City Radio Station, because I live in Lincoln in the UK. They do interviews for free. I reached out to them and said, "Hey, can I come on your show?" And they said yes. So I went on. We talked about my books. We talked about writing in general, what it's like, quite a lot of things. Their hosts were really lovely. There's some pictures on their Instagram of me in their studio with a great big microphone in my face, which felt very strange, but it was great to get the word out and show off what I'd done.
Getting the word out online certainly is difficult. Would you say you favor going out into the community as opposed to trying to advertise on the internet?
It's a very different feeling. I like the connection element a bit more because online, even if you do connect with someone, I mean, we met online, it feels different now. It feels a bit stilted because it's just through text and you don't get a real feel of the person. Whereas face to face, you can talk to someone, you can ask about their life, they ask about yours. It's much more organic, it's much more natural. So I do enjoy that more. When it comes to advertising, I've had more success online, but then the online stuff I've been doing since 2019, the in-person stuff I started last year, so it's just taking its time to get going.
How do you prepare for something in person? Because I know that it's all your setup and it's you hauling everything and it's you sort of making yourself available whether or not you know there's going to be a turnout. So what all is involved with that? How do you get yourself amped up for it?
Well, practically, like you said, me hauling stuff is interesting because you probably can't see on here for watchers, but I am 5 foot nothing and not very athletic, and I've got two tables that I carry, and I've got 3 bags of books and 2 boxes of books, and all the tablecloths and book stands and all the showy bits that go
Right.
along with that. I have to carry them to my car, which is a 20-year-old Mini, so it's not a very big car. I have to get them in the car. I have to drive to the other end, get parked, get them out, get them set up. And then the other side of it, like you said, is the getting hyped up and thinking, okay, I've signed up for this. That
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean people are going to come. So I do try to advertise the events beforehand. I share
Right.
posters about them on social media. I hand out flyers. I tell people I'm going to be there. Still doesn't necessarily mean that people turn up. I've been to sort of 6-hour events where I haven't made any money, and that can be quite draining. So really, just to hype myself up, I think that if one sale happens, it's good. If I meet one person, it's good. I try and have low expectations and positive thoughts going in, and it's not easy, but you just
How
have to
does one
think
have
whatever I
low
get out of this.
expectations and positive thoughts? That's wow. No, but there's something to be said about beating the pavement. It's one of the things that really made me curious about what you had going on because it's something that I feel is lost. We've got 20 years separating us, and I was just thinking to myself, if I was in my 20s, I would be doing it that way as well because it hadn't yet, those avenues hadn't yet died out. So it's encouraging to see somebody carrying it out that way. And I hope that the process is at least rewarding, regardless of whether you sell anything.
Yeah, it is. It's very rewarding to meet people. It's very rewarding to see reactions just to the fact that I'm an author and I'm out there. You know, I have a sign on my stall that says Meet Ellie Jay, local indie author. I put that out every time. The amount of people who stop and talk to me just because I'm an author, they ask me about the process, and even if my books aren't their genre, they will wish me good luck. It's great to see. It's really encouraging to know that that resonates with people, that connects with people somewhere along the
Is it a
line.
small town that you're in?
Um, I'm kind of in the big city of a very rural county, if that makes sense. We're a county
Sure.
of small towns and
Okay.
villages and really tiny rural places. I'm kind of the centre of that. So it's not necessarily a small town, but you get a lot of small town attitude, if that makes sense. You get a lot of community feeling, a lot of connection.
I would say that would probably be working in your favor. And I would feel like at this stage of where we are, I feel like that's the only circumstances under which you could properly do it, you know. And I kind of had to assume that you were in sort of a smaller town or smaller city because it feels like you'd have to have, pardon me, you'd have to have a little bit of confidence in the community itself, right?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable, say, going down to London and doing it there because
Right.
I don't know London. I don't know anyone in London. It's a fast-paced, busy place. Everyone's got their own stuff to deal with, and they're probably not going to stop and look at me and see what I'm doing. But I feel more comfortable doing it here because I've grown up here. I know the area. I know lots of people around who I can say if it's a really slow day, hey, can you come down and just say hi and talk to me and just make me feel a bit better. Um, but it's just knowing that there is a community here, there is a sense of community feeling, and that you're going to get people who stop and wandering off the street just because they've seen a sign saying that there's an event there today. Whereas I don't think a lot of people would in London because they'll think, well, I haven't got time for that.
Well, it takes a certain kind of individual to see a sign and want to do that. And I don't know that the fast-paced city breeds that sort of mentality. Like I said, when I first saw what you had going on, I said that she must be in sort of a small town. And I thought to myself, that's how I would be doing it too. And again, we're 20 years separated, and yet I am 100% of your mindset. And I don't know if you feel like you're preserving tradition or you think about it as you're doing it, but you have to know that you are, and that part is encouraging as well.
Yeah, it's not necessarily just about the tradition, but it's about reaching people to whom the online stuff doesn't appeal. Because there's a lot of people in my community who they don't care about Amazon, or if they do,
Sure.
they don't necessarily want to support Amazon. Because with the online stuff, a percentage of my royalties, a percentage of the customer's money goes to Amazon. There's a lot of people in my community who I know who aren't computer literate and don't necessarily want to be. My own parents,
Bless
my
those
mother has
people.
never has yeah, my mother has never used a computer or a smartphone or an iPad, any of that. And so it's looking at people like her that I know and thinking, actually, I want to reach them as well. I don't just want to reach people who can buy my books at the click of a button. And that encourages me to go out and meet people, meet different people.
Well, there's something to be said about interacting in person anyway, and bonding over literature sure is. Book likers will find each other. God willing, they'll find each other, and if it is a small town, I was watching some documentary about independent bookstores. And so I would be just as drawn to an independent bookstore as I would just somebody showcasing their work, just simply for the sake of supporting what it is, you know. Speaking of publishing though, let's transition there because you started on Amazon, correct? And then you moved to your own thing, right?
Yeah, so I have Amazon, which is where I started, and I did that kind of blind. I was 19 years old, I'd written the book, I had queried it for a little bit. The only response I was getting was from people who wanted me to pay them thousands of pounds just so they could put it on Amazon themselves.
Right.
So I kind of went, well, screw you, I'll just do it myself. And I did.
Yeah.
So that's where the Amazon thing came from. And as I got more confident, as I learned more about publishing, I used Draft to Digital as well. So they are more of a distributor. They'll put your work in libraries. It will be on Barnes and Noble website, Kobo, lots of the other big places. And then I do also have my books on my own website now, so people can buy directly from me, and I will ship them wherever they need to go, which is great because it means that I can be cheaper on my own website because I don't have the overheads of, oh, well, actually, someone else is taking 30% of this and 30% of that. And it's a better way to cut out the middleman and just take that for myself, but also to connect directly with the readers as well.
When did you, after how many books did you start doing independently like that? When did you leave Amazon after how many books?
Well, my books are still on Amazon as well because I can do multiple, but I think I had 4 books out before I started doing them wider. So before I started the Draft to Digital, and then my own website came a little bit after that.
So it was about managing your own stuff and not getting that chunk taken out of what you earn, correct?
Yeah, yeah, and just expanding as well. So there's different options there because I
Okay.
do still sell things through Amazon. I do still sell through Draft to Digital, but then there's the website as well. So then there's 3 different places that people can find my books, find me, and 3 different places that I'm getting money from.
All right. Because I sort of see Amazon's system as publishing with training wheels. You know what I mean? I was able to sort of get involved and see the pitfalls and see what kind of mistakes could happen. And also just kind of feel good about something that I did, when you first published that book, were you inspired to do more or was it strange? Were you apprehensive?
The written work, I was inspired to do more. I was inspired to write more. I was a bit nervous about the publishing side of it, especially because when I first did it, I didn't have social media at all. I
Okay.
didn't have a single account. So I was a bit, well, how do I tell people? Is it just going to sit there and do nothing? And for a while it did. And then I was like, no, I have to start doing something about this and start putting myself out there. I think after I got the social media stuff down, I was then excited to publish the rest of the stuff that I'd written because I knew that I could do something with it now. But it was getting to that stage where I know what I'm doing with the publishing side as well. Because the writing's easy for me, it's not a big deal, it's just the getting it out there.
Yeah, and I suppose that's probably a challenge for everybody right now. And outside of you reaching out to your immediate community, how else do you get your work out there?
Well, a lot of it is online, a lot of it is social media. I've built quite a good following on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I use LinkedIn. I have Instagram, but I'm not as good at that because I'm not really a photo person. YouTube, which trying new things. A lot of that is less about constantly going, hey, buy my books, and more letting people know that I'm here and I've written books, and then talking to them, because it's social media, right? You use it to have a conversation and see where that leads, but it's just constantly letting people know that I exist and I am an author and they can buy my books if they would like to.
Has this led to you meeting other authors? Is this sort of reaching out, hey, I have books, and somebody just shouts back from the aether, I have books too.
Yeah, there's a big online author community, especially with indie authors, right? Because we're all kind of in it together. We're all doing it on our own. We haven't got a publishing house shouting about us. So we kind of come together to support and lift each other up. And as well as just the online thing, I actually found out through social media that there are other authors in my community, and we now have a group chat and we meet up every now and again to talk and to share ideas,
Your
because
your
I didn't.
your physical community out in your
Yeah,
town. That's
yeah, I didn't
interesting.
even know they were there because it wasn't something I knew about. I wasn't in the right circle, and then I got involved on social media and found a group of people who were all kind of in the same geographical area as me, or within enough miles for us all to occasionally come together, which is really helpful because sometimes you need to talk to another writer, you need to talk to somebody who gets it to feel like you're still sane, because it's a weird process.
Sure. Sure. You know what, not being able to share my notes or not sharing my notes in the past is what sort of at times prevents me from starting new stuff is because what where I am geographically, that would be next to impossible, first of all. But there is a merit in meeting in person, and it's good that online activity found you more people that you could speak to in person because ultimately I feel like that is the best way to promote. I'm so happy that you're preserving it, and I'm so happy that you're bringing it back. Let's shift to what you've done now. Let's shift to what you've written. You can go in order, or you can just tell us however you want. Actually, can you go in order? That seems like the right thing to do, right?
In order of time, I think when I wrote them,
Yeah.
yeah,
What's the
that's
first one you smashed out?
so. My first book is Family Secrets, which is
Okay.
a Russian mafia thriller story. And the reason I asked you about what you meant by in order is because that book then went on to have a prequel, which I wrote next. So they're out of order, but in order. So the prequel is Secrets of the Volkovs, which kind of goes back 20 years to follow the protagonist from Family Secrets, her parents, and what happened to them, why it's important for her to kind of get closure and do what she does in the second book. And then I went back and did a sequel to Family Secrets. So it is a trilogy, but I wrote them completely out of order. So Secrets in the Flames is the final book, ties up all the loose ends of this sort of 20-25 year journey of one family trying to fight this mafia group and get out from under their control. And then once that was done, I kind of drew a line under it. I'm like, I need to take a step back from that series, write something totally new, which was a daunting prospect. So I went back to stuff that I was a big fan of when I was a kid, and I wrote some sci-fi stories that are kind of Star Wars inspired. Only one of them is published so far, just because it's taken me so long to write the second one. But Planet of Lies was my fourth book, which I believe was the one you read, and that is set in space. It's a story about a vigilante space pirate trying to take down the government. And then I did, these aren't mine that I self published, but I was involved in two short story collections around that time, Quick Poems and Stories, Volume 1 and 2. They were published by a small indie publisher in Australia. They've got stories from people all around the world involved, just some really short, quick stories that I did to keep my hand in while I was thinking of what I'm going to do next. So that's 5 and 6. And then my 7th book, which I did earlier this year, was revisiting the series that Family Secrets started, because I wrote that when I was 19. I'm 24 now, and I thought there are things I could change. There are things I would like to sort of re-edit, revisit. So I did like a omnibus edition, 3 books in one. It's a huge book. It's about 130,000 words, but it brings everything together. There's some bonus short stories in there, some illustrations, and re-edits of the original stories that I've sort of brought up to date with my writing style and what I do now. So that was my 7th book. And then the 8th book is one that I am technically the publisher for other people, because it's an anthology that I put together alongside a gentleman I met on LinkedIn, and we gathered 6, 7 other authors from around the globe. They wrote some short stories. There's about 3 or 4 from each of us. I was the one who put them together, edited them, formatted them, turned them into a novel, and it's published in my name under my ISBN. So that was the most recent one, which is the Noble J short story collection.
Okay. So as far as I hear novels and I hear short stories, do you favor one over the other?
I am personally more of a novelist. I can't help it. If I write a short story, I tend to kind of go off on a tangent and it becomes longer than I intended it to. And I've always found short stories quite hard, which is why it was kind of a fun challenge to get those first ones published in that anthology and to build my confidence before I went on to manage the anthology myself later down the line. But novels will always be my default, I think.
What is there a genre you favor in terms of writing?
Not really, because I've dabbled in multiple genres now. I've done the thriller and I've done the sci-fi. Although probably, I mean, looking at reader feedback, a lot of people say my thrillers have some sci-fi elements in anyway, so that is probably something I kind of unconsciously involve.
Is there a style you would like to dabble in?
Um, See, one of the ones that I've seen a lot of, I've not been brave enough to do yet, is fantasy.
I hear you.
Purely
I
because,
hear
yeah,
you.
it is popular. It's very popular. I've enjoyed things like Tolkien, things like that, to read myself. But because fantasy tends to be such dense world building and such
Sure.
long books, it's like I don't know if I have the stamina to do
Yeah.
that before I would get sick of it and go, no, I'm done.
Yeah, we were talking before this interview, and I have a friend who is on book 12. Still haven't seen any of her stuff, and she's still alive. I can confirm that. But yeah, it seems like it's that world building, and it seems like how do you even make room when so many authors have done it so well? I grew up reading Dragonlance, especially preteen and teenage years. And I did try to write fantasy, and all I was doing was writing Dragonlance, really. And it's like, I don't want to make all of those rules. I don't want to make new maps. I don't want to create new religions and deities. And no, I sort of appreciate all that stuff laid out for me. But at the same time, I have another friend as well who, the same thing. He said the hardest part is the rules of the world. I would love to write fantasy, but how does one even make an inroad when it's been done so well? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I have sort of done world building with the sci-fi stuff, but
Right.
it feels like a whole other level to approach fantasy. It feels like it's been done on such a different basis, and I wouldn't know where to start because sci-fi is fairly easy. Space is huge. You just go, oh. there's a planet over there. That's what it
Right.
feels like to me. But fantasy, you are creating not just a whole new universe with its own rules, its own like physics, its own religion, and I just don't know how well I could do that.
Well, fantasy versus sci-fi, I feel like this just the Star Trek rule. Back in the 60s when they didn't exactly have a resolution, they would just say a few lines. There's the resolution. Oh, it's the ionizer. We just need to reverse it. With space, you could just throw some crap at somebody and it'll pretty much work. Whereas I feel like a fantasy world is the exact opposite, and it must deities and moons and the color of the soil. I feel like if you neglect those things in fantasy, you're selling the world short. And maybe that's why my friend has never seen the light of day and is still on book 12. I don't know. But all right, so you said the first book you published was when you were 19. Take me back a little bit before that. When did you first start putting pen to paper and realizing you enjoyed it?
I was kind of a born writer. I just started. I mean, there's this story that my mother tells everyone. I don't remember doing this, but apparently one day when I was about 5, I came home from school and I got some paper and some pens and some coloured paper, and I made a book, wrapped the coloured paper around it as a cover, illustrations, written stuff, everything, insisted that my mother staple it together, and then I took it into school to show people. So that was kind of my first marketing, my first, like, here's my book, you have to read it.
Wow, so you were a
And
marketer before you were a writer. That is interesting. You were made for it. All right. And
yeah,
so what was the first thing that you recall, like a short story or something for school? What was the first thing you recall you really threw everything you had into it?
I did a lot of short stories and things through school, but I never really got into them because a lot of the things my teachers based it on was stuff I'd never seen or never been interested in. I didn't have a TV growing up, and they did
Okay.
a lot of thinking that it would get kids interested. Here's a Disney film that you're going to write a prompt about. I'm like, well, I've never seen the Disney film, so I don't know where to start. But what I did when I was about 12 is I started writing fan fiction,
Okay.
uh, mostly Star Wars fan fiction, and it wasn't very good. It was very like, here's 200 words, and that's what I'm calling a chapter for today, and it's full of all the spelling errors that you expect a 12-year-old to make. But that's what I put out there at that age, and I was really passionate about it. And that's where I first started to get feedback because I had people who would review or comment on my fan fictions, and probably a lot of them were other kids as well, just messing around on the internet when we probably shouldn't have been on there. But a lot of it was really helpful for my confidence as a writer and my motivation because you get a good review and you're like, oh yeah, this person really loves it. I need to write the next chapter immediately
Yeah.
for,
Keeps
for
you
this
going.
one person.
Was there a book that pushed you? Was there a book that specifically you said, "Well, I got to take a shot at this"? A book, an
I
article, something?
I had all the little like Star Wars spin-off expanded universe storybooks that were like this thick that were done for children, and I used to read those. There was one that I borrowed from the library. I don't even remember the title anymore, but I was obsessed with that, and I'd borrow it like every week from the local library and read it again and again and again because it was like one of 3 or 4 that they had, and it was my favourite thing at the time, and that sort of pushed me to keep writing more and more and more.
All right, well, what's down the road? You got other things going now that you've got your own publishing, now that you're a busy human being. So what else is coming down the road for you?
Very busy. So I am currently working with 8 other authors to do the next Noble J collection, which is going to take a lot of my time because I am the sole editor, the sole formatter, the person who takes everybody's short stories and puts them together. And that's supposed to be out this autumn, we're hoping, like
Okay.
October, November time. And then I am slowly trying to work on writing the sequel to Planet of Lies, and I've been saying that for the last 2 years. So eventually you will see it, I promise. And then after that, I'm not going to say too much because I don't know when this is happening and how this is happening, but there's potentially a crossover collaboration with another indie author that I'm working on.
Standing. All right. Yeah, hopefully we get a little bit of that going with our interviews because this is uh this is the one way that I'm going to be able to reach out to people, and it's one way that I can kind of keep my finger on the pulse. And it was good finding out these things about you. All right. I like these interviews because they humanize people. They contextualize all the texts and everything that we've had back and forth over the last year, over a year now. And again, hopefully these interviews, they humanize people, humanize indie authors, and not just authors, illustrators, and editors. We want everybody here on the indie side because not everybody has this community where, like Ellie, where you can just go outside and talk to people. I know a lot of people feel isolated, so that's going to be the purpose of what we're doing here. So we started by humanizing each other, letting everybody know that we are passionate about what we do. This is our free time. There's no monetization at this juncture, but it is exciting to round up indie voices. And I hope that after this introduction, some more people will be excited about talking on the indie side. And I certainly enjoyed hearing from you today. Was there anything, before we end this, though, is there any kind of encouragement? Because we could talk about the highs and the lows, we could talk about the pitfalls, but if there was somebody 19, like when you were getting started, and they came to you and said, "All right, I'm looking at the hill. This is a large hill." What would you say to them?
My go to advice for this situation is always what sounds like the least helpful thing, the most obvious thing. Just keep writing because practice makes perfect, and the more you write, the more you physically put out there, the more likely it is that you are going to find what you like to do, that people are going to find what they like about your writing style, and that you will find the niche that you need to kind of push you up that hill, to kind of say, yeah, all right, this is what I'm all about now. How do I make it happen?
All right, we want to make sure that all of your sites are available. So when we post this video, we're going to make sure you're able to reach out to all of Ellie Jay's sites. And at the same time, if you are interested in having one of these interviews rather, if you're an editor, illustrator, even an artist, just let us know. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to get your voice out there. My name is Pete, and this has been the Indie Side, and I want to thank Ellie Jay once again for such a great first interview. All right. Ellie, thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you for doing so much, for leading the conversation, putting this all together, for taking the time to be here today and get the indie side started. And hopefully, we will be back with more people, more interviews, more stories very soon.